Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh! Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will, Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
He picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. I am Sterling Holmes, joined by Josh Briscoe, and let's have us a day. Yeah, you see this smile on my face. I'm excited. We have actual stuff to talk about, good stuff to talk about, some slightly concerning things to talk about, but overall, training camp underway, a grueling day up in St. Joe. Got some insight coming your way just for you. Briscoe, how you doing, my man?
I'm good because I haven't gone outside very much yet today. I was not there in full pads in St. Joe, so God bless all the players that made it through with or without a little bit of a skirmish. I want to fight just like the bugs in my yard. I mowed my lawn yesterday, and I wanted to fight the groundhog that lives under our shed. So I certainly understand a little Ashton Gelati, Josh Simmons beef as it reaches, I believe, 150 degrees Fahrenheit in St. Joe.
Yeah, not actually kidding here. I think according to Matt Derrick, it was 120 on the field. It feels like temp was 120.
I thought I was exaggerating by more than 30 degrees.
I knew you were. I knew that'd be a good spot to bring you down. There's actually a lot I wanted to take away. Harrison Butker spoke today, and I think there were some fascinating things that he said that at least had me extremely excited. Kingsley Sumatia spoke today, but I think there was actually something more intriguing in regards to the left guard situation that's starting to brew. And I also want to point out Josh Simmons and some of the talking points that I had before he was drafted to where he is now. I think I've almost gone a complete 180 from I was maybe the most pessimistic person for a lot of reasons, not necessarily Josh Simmons related, but for a lot of organizational Simmons combo related things to where I am now, which is beyond optimistic compared to maybe even the average person. So I want to talk about all that and a whole lot more. But I do want to start with the fight, as you mentioned, because I think this was awesome. I like it. I'm the first to admit this. I don't mind a training camp battle/fight. Like, I don't want full-on brawls, which I think some people, maybe the national side, are trying to make it out to believe it was some brawl in Chiefs training camp.
Punch.
It's like, no, it was some shoving, some pushing. Yeah, a helmet got taken off.
There were kids there. Sorry, I'm done.
Ashton Gelati and Josh Simmons got into it. How it transpired as it was related to me, I was on radio, so I'd have my folk there. Lebo gave me a good breakdown of this.
Good.
Where basically it was Josh Simmons who was dominating Ashton Gelati. Simmons maybe was going to the echo of the whistle on some plays. Gelati took offense. Some shoving ensued. Simmons threw a punch. Gelati then kind of retaliated, taking the helmet off of Simmons. And apparently they're all boys. So it's not a big deal. It is going to be glossed over, and that's why I love it. Because what you see coming out of different training camps are Chiefs players showing passion and fight in a 2.5-hour, 100-degree weather training camp, whilst you look around the AFC West, and their training camp says, quote, Raiders player offended by Wilkins' kiss.
I'm not sure we've gotten the actual story of that story, but I do think it is for the at least 12th consecutive and most likely 13th maybe consecutive year. The Chiefs have a more functional home training camp setup than anybody else in the AFC West. Most of all, the Raiders.
Yeah. I see Bumpa. You guys should change the title. It's not a left tackle battle, even a right tackle battle. It seems like it's Kingsley versus Moore at left guard. We'll get into all of that. Yes, I'm with you. I think left tackle is now Josh Simmons. I'm 100% agreeing with you in that regard. But I do think it's not just left guard that's up for grabs. I still think right tackle is up for grabs. And Andy Reid spoke today. He obviously was annoyed with the heat as well. Briscoe, I'm sure you listened to his whole conversation. He seemingly did not want to be there. Very short answers, very much one word. He was not going to give anything out. He wanted to do a very difficult practice today because tomorrow is a 10-10-10 easy day. But again, going back to the start of that with Ashton Gelati and Josh Simmons, I am a fan of a little feistiness, as Andy Reid did put it, little ornery today in that heat. Do you have any issue with a little pushing and shoving going on? Obviously, if it's a game and a punch gets thrown, you're probably getting tossed. Yeah, I agree. That's bad. This situation, you know your boys. You know you were in the same rookie class as well. Right. You've been going up against each other for 3 days in padded practice. Simmons has won, it seems like, almost all the battles so far, which is, again, nice to see. What do you make of the fight?
If you wanted to clutch your pearls about something, you would say that, which is like, well, look, you can't be doing it in a game, so don't do it in practice. You practice how you play, all of the things that we've heard 100,000 times. It's not a game. It's St. Joe. It's 4,000 degrees on the surface of the sun. And as you mentioned there, I feel like that is like act 2 to a couple of the clips we saw from the day prior of Josh Simmons and Ashton Gelati going head-to-head and Simmons winning that battle and it being a real physical clash that you got to feel pretty good about from both sides there, but better from Simmons' side, which is better for the Chiefs, both short-term, long-term. Ashton Gelati is going to be a pretty good football player. I feel relatively good about that. That day will come. If you were to say, I have a problem with skirmishes in training camps, any team that has a skirmish in training camp cannot win a Super Bowl. I think you would be proven wrong most likely by the end of the first week of camps. I think every team has probably had a skirmish. It's going to happen. Travis Kelce can punch Jack Cochran. Josh Simmons can thwack Ashton Gelati. You obviously don't want that to bubble up in negative ways. This sport is literally, especially in the trenches most of all, this sport is literally a game of punches and taking punches. It is literally a game of feistiness and physicality. So again, you have to have control over your emotions. And what I saw happen in that clip today was a, air quotes, skirmish that was then separated and broken up relatively quickly, and it didn't cost him a rep. If you want to see Andy Reid have an issue with one of those, it's one that spills over into the next rep. It's one that changes the timing of their day. If it costs you practice time, you'll get the twitchy mustache from Andy Reid. If it's going a few seconds past the whistle, maybe a little bit of an extracurricular. Again, Andy Reid wanted to punch the microphone at the podium. Not any of the reporters. It wasn't that bad. But he was holding on to that thing, ready to go. That is intrinsic to July 29th in St. Joseph, Missouri. It's just going to happen. If it happens in the regular season, don't bring this clip back and say, well, you loved it when he fought in camp. I'm perfectly fine also with an uneventful camp in that regard. If nobody fights the rest of the way, that might be the best case scenario. But I'm certainly not alarmed that a couple of large grown men went a few seconds past the whistle during a rep of NFL football today. That's okay with me.
Yeah. And so that brings us into probably the main storyline, which is Josh Simmons is looking like the left tackle. The battle shockingly seems almost done. Maybe I'm wrong here. And I know Andy Reid, he spoke and here's a little interesting tidbit here. For those that don't know, left guard, first rep, not Kingsley Suamataia.
Today.
It was Jaylon Moore.
Right.
Now, I'll also point out, I think an interesting storyline is Hunter Norzad actually played some guard with the twos, I think it was yesterday on Monday. And then actually Caliendo was at backup center. That was from Mick Schaefer, and we were surprised by that sort of development. That seems to be a change from the norm. But with Jaylon Moore getting some first-team guard reps, the Chiefs, in my mind, are basically saying, we're not just giving Kingsley the left guard spot, and they're going to put their best 5 out there. Whether that is Jaylon Moore at left tackle, Jaylon Moore at left guard, Jaylon Moore at right tackle, doesn't matter. They're trying to find the best configurations for their best starting 5. We know it's going to be Creed. We know it's going to be Trey. And I think at this point, we're pretty much saying it's going to be Josh Simmons at left tackle, which means those 2 spots, left guard and right tackle, are up for grabs. And Jaylon Moore just might take one of those spots. I do think it is fair to note, Jaylon Moore has never played guard.
Mm-hmm.
He's always played tackle. So there
which is also largely true for Kingsley Suamataia, for whatever that's worth.
And I was about to say,
sorry, I got excited.
It is true for Kingsley Suamataia, who spoke today, who said, I forget where he said
he
it.
Basically said he's always played tackle.
He's always played outside.
He obviously had the week 18 half game. Basically, it was a full game, but the offense was on the field so briefly that it was basically half a game of snaps. I think it was 31 snaps or something.
And so I keep going back to where I was when Simmons got drafted to where I am now. And it's why it's okay to feel a certain way when something happens, but why it's, I think, more paramount than anything else to keep an open mind. And when new information, when you receive new information, you should be able to change your thought process and not be stuck on where you originally were. Yeah. If that makes sense. Don't be so hard-headed because you originally said one thing that blinds you from where this situation currently stands. Don't let it affect you, because I was not a fan of the Simmons pick. We know that. I think everyone here listening knows that. And it wasn't just Simmons. It was the knee, yes, but it's because the Chiefs have not been able to develop left tackle talent or tackle talent in general. Dudes get here and they get worse at tackle. Juwan Taylor is Exhibit A, Kingsley Suamataia, Wanya Morris, the list goes on, right? We have to go back to Andrew Wiley as the last real developmental piece that the Chiefs made and got better. Like Eric Fisher took 5 years. They weren't given a guy here 5 or 4 years to really improve, right? So that was my real concern. Josh Simmons doesn't look like he needs 4 or 5 years. Josh Simmons looks like he needs now. That knee looks like the surgeon deserves a raise and a Nobel Peace Prize. That knee looks like it's not being favored in any sort of way. I couldn't even tell you which knee is the bad one. They're both the good knees at this point. So I'm all in on Josh Simmons. I should probably calm down because it is training camp, but my goodness, it's hard not to get thrilled by what we have seen.
And look, I mean, yes, we are working in a relatively small sample size here. If his knee starts barking at him later in training camp, all of this is going to get a little bit frustrating to look back on and go, man, I thought we were in the clear, and maybe they are. Here a couple of things that aren't just small sample size though. 3 players on the offensive line have gotten every first team rep: Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Josh Simmons at center, right guard, and left tackle, respectively. We can talk about left guard and right tackle and kind of where the nuance of all of that lands. And I want to talk about Jaylon Moore because I think the process throughout that was fascinating. But it also makes me think about what you just said in terms of being willing to take on new information and all of that. You also have to be able to look back at your process and how you came to a conclusion in a take that you brought. If you can look back and you can say, you know what, I don't regret the process that I took, but ultimately I ended up here. There's a different conclusion here now. I was excited by the Simmons pick because whatever the percentage chance of it hitting was the Chiefs' best chance at getting a legitimate franchise left tackle for a number of years. I love that they signed Jaylon Moore, and I still do, even if he's an overqualified 6th offensive lineman this entire year, because guys get hurt, and you'd like to have more than just 5 linemen. And last year, they relied on, I think they had 8 guys play legitimate snaps, not counting week 18 across that offensive line. And obviously, there's a lot of shuffling due to play rather than just injury there. All that to say, though, I understand why we had the little bit of concern with the Simmons pick because the timeline was uncertain. Now that he's just on the field, not only do I think a lot of Chiefs fans who were skeptical at the time are very, very excited right now, I also think there are probably teams around the NFL staring at their big boards, looking at their medical staff sideways and going, wait a second. Should we have taken him? And I don't think that's guaranteed because you still kind of had your top level of tackle guys, and the teams that really needed them were able to strike up high. Then that mid-level group, I mean, there weren't a lot of tackles that kind of went in that long chunk, but I think there were a couple teams that probably are looking back right now going, oh, well, we probably should have had him in for one more medical visit, or we should have taken one closer look at that knee. Because right now, small sample size, he looks like the player that he looked like in college. He looks like the guy that we've seen on film. That guy's a top 10 pick. That guy, without any injury baggage, I don't know, maybe you talk yourself into a top 5 pick as teams kind of pick their flavor of tackles and what kind of guy you want. But man, you just wouldn't build them much better out of a lab. And so the Chiefs, I think rightfully, are trying to give him every chance to put a stranglehold on this job. I think Juwan Taylor starting on the PUP list and making sure that you could have Simmons at left and Moore at right for those first few unpadded practices. You put Josh Simmons right in that spot, you let him roll, and as long as he doesn't slip up, he keeps that job all the way till week 1. I think we're clearly there right now.
Yeah, I think so. And this seems more legitimate than last year. Last year, we were talking ourselves into, did you see what Kingsley did against Malik Herring? Can you believe? Is Malik Herring taking that next step? Are we seeing this? And then we found out, no, Malik Herring's a fine backup of a backup. He's a fringe NFLer, and Kingsley Suamataia was not ready. So I want to say all of that maybe we should pump the brakes a little bit because the Chiefs spoke glowingly about Kingsley. There were no worries, and quite frankly, even into the preseason, we all, I think, thought Kingsley looks okay. He looks fine over there.
He did.
And then it went downhill quick. It just feels and looks a little different with the domination that Josh Simmons is providing. Where Kingsley got by, Josh Simmons is dominating.
I've got two extra flavors of what I think makes that even more different. Because I know people with some cautious pessimism have come in with that. There are two differences that I think are extremely important here. One is that Kingsley's college film and Josh Simmons' college film do not look similar. Kingsley was an interesting, high upside, physical traits kind of guy who made total sense to try to plug in there and develop, but he wasn't a top 10 type of pick coming off an injury, where Simmons' question was about the health. And the other thing is who they're beating out. It's another reason that having Jaylon Moore on this team matters. If Josh Simmons was smoke and mirrors, Jaylon Moore would be at left tackle right now, or he will be in a week or two if we actually find out, the Chiefs weren't really impressed with Simmons, which I don't think is true. I think they are very impressed with what's happening right now. Because, you know what? It was a little smoke and mirrors. Some one-on-one reps got taken too far. Jaylon Moore can go in there and take those first team reps and be your starter through the preseason. When week 1 comes around, fine. Last year, not only was it mostly Kingsley versus Wanya Morris was banged up during camp. At some point, you're talking about what? Was it like, genuinely, was it Ethan Driscoll? I don't know. There wasn't a veteran in that mix, which, leads to them eventually trying to sign DJ Humphries later on.
Maybe?
Right. Like, you're talking about even more developmental players.
Yeah.
Like Godric, pathway program, Driscoll, small school, and this enormous body, but you're trying to make sure you can play tackle at the NFL level. Kingsley was like the favorite the whole way through there, especially when Morris was out. And you and I have both been higher on Wanya Morris than others over the years, and we've not always been rewarded for our belief, but that's how it goes sometimes. My toxic trait, I still believe a little bit. I feel like he could be a guard. I feel like he could be in that mix. I kind of like him.
I still do, too. By the way, I still think Wanya Morris is a fine swing tackle, and I think that if you need him in a pinch, he can do it. I don't want him for a full season, maybe, but for like 3 games in a row, I could see it.
I think Wanya Morris is going to have a nice NFL career, like just sort of persistently being on a roster. I think he should be. I don't know if he'll be a starter regularly.
Andrew Wiley.
He could definitely. He could absolutely be that. But I just think all of that does lead more credence to what Simmons is doing right now. And then it's not just this give it to the rookie by default kind of thing. I think this, to me, has more of the vibe, and that this is a big name because this man just made a lot of money. This has more of a Trey Smith vibe to me than it does last year's Kingsley vibe.
Yeah, I would concur with that. Let's get to left guard now, because I think this is very interesting. I think it's best case scenario if Kingsley wins because he's the guy on a rookie contract. It looks good for him, looks good for the Chiefs. And I think the athleticism of Kingsley is intriguing, but they're not just going to give it to him. It's not just going to be it's a battle. And then they just go, it's Kingsley. Jaylon Moore getting first team reps, I thought was real fascinating. Hunter Norzad now getting an opportunity to play guard, not just backup center, is interesting. I saw earlier, I think Ronson trade. I agree with a lot of things you say. Saying that Norzad is legitimately on the roster bubble. I push back there. I think that the Chiefs keep at 9 to 10 offensive linemen, and I think he's probably 9. I think he's like one of the safe 9. I think 10's where it gets real intriguing if they go 10 or 11, but I think it's Moore, Creed, Trey, Taylor, Kingsley, Kelly and Wanya, Simmons, Norzad, and then a Driscoll, Pohl, CJ Hansen. It's one of those developmental guys. But I think Norris did it because he's the backup center. But Caliendo getting reps there was intriguing. I don't know. I guess I think this left guard battle now is where I'm shifting my attention to, because I do think, and maybe it's too soon, that Simmons is he's the guy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think right now, and this is definitely too soon. Of all the things I've said so far, this is probably the part that I believe the most thinly. But I think it's still probably Kingsley's job at left guard, and he could lose. I think it's Kingsley's job at guard right now. He could lose it in practice. He could lose it in the preseason. He could lose it in week 2 again. No one's life is being bet on Kingsley having that job the entire regular season. But I think right now you have Taylor off to the side for those first few practices, and Moore gets some practice there. Now you have him rotating in at guard. I think those are the 2 places he's most likely to be needed. To me, it feels more like trying to get your 6th lineman a little bit of run with the ones rather than a legitimate competition at left guard. To me, right now, it wouldn't bother me. This is the nice thing about having some flexibility and having a little bit more talent on the O-line than you were maybe expecting to need. If he does start at left guard, it's not great news for Kingsley, right? You know, all right, you lost your job in short turn last year, and now you can't keep one through training camp. How do the Chiefs view Kingsley if he's not your starting left guard? I see that. But if Jaylon Moore is your starting left guard throughout the season, that's a professional offensive lineman. You're paying a decent amount of money, who he had to beat, not just Kingsley, but also the guy who started, you mentioned Mike Caliendo, the guy who started in the Super Bowl for you last year, who played throughout the playoff run. It wasn't great, but the Chiefs have some faith in him. It's not like there's a dearth of options at guard. I still kind of think Wanya Morris could do it. They actually have bodies there. So I think what they've done is they've raised the floor across the board and say, we got to have at least players this good in the starting lineup. And even if they suffer, hopefully it wouldn't be more than a short-term injury, but even if they suffer an injury at some point during the season, I think you could have Jaylon Moore step in at really any of the 4 spots that aren't center and play pretty decent football for a stretch.
I see Javier says in the chat, the money we paid Jaylon Moore, he's going to play. I think it's a sunk cost. I do. I think it's going to be whoever's better, because I think, it'd be great if Jaylon Moore wins out because of the money you're paying him, but also you have to go by the process where you didn't have Josh Simmons on this team and you had no idea what Josh Simmons was going to look like, even if you did know he was on your team. So the process of bringing in Jaylon Moore made sense. I think he's your right tackle in 2026 after the Juwan Taylor contract. To me, it's a sunk cost this year. You had to have a floor. Yes. You had to have a guy.
You had to have a left tackle on the roster when the draft began.
Correct.
And they did. And it was Jaylon Moore. The other thing is, I don't, not only is it kind of a sunk cost thing, and again, right now, man, look, it's $11 million. $11 million for an overqualified, we're going to call him overpaid 6th lineman. He's going to play football this year. Who have they not invested a ton in on this offensive line right now? Juwan Taylor has twice the cap hit, more than twice the cap hit that Jaylon Moore has. Trey Smith just got a huge bag. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. Creed Humphrey got a huge bag. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. Kingsley Suamataia, you traded up for and spent a 2nd-round pick on last year, and you just spent a 1st-round pick on Josh Simmons. There's payment, put in air quotes, either financially or draft pick-wise, in all of those guys. All 6 of those top guys were legitimate assets the Chiefs had to spend to bring them in. So there's going to be some sunk cost somewhere across that line. That's just where the line has gotten at this point. So again, I think Jaylon Moore will play this year. I don't think it's because he's getting paid. I think it's because there are injuries, and maybe he does again win that battle against one of those other 2. I just want winners, not winners by default. And I think the Chiefs are very well set up for that to be the case.
Yeah, Rob says 5 best play. End of story. Agreed. Anonymous Mango, the cap hit won't protect Mahomes. You play the best 5. Money should not come into the equation. Agreed.
And even 100%. Then, who in the chat or who in Chiefs Kingdom or you, Sterling, would anyone have not paid $11 million in 2025 to know that if Juwan Taylor, who's coming off a knee something, if Juwan Taylor goes down in the postseason, you have a starting caliber right tackle going in to protect Patrick Mahomes in January rather than Wanya Morris getting his first action in a year, or Ethan Driscoll getting his first meaningful NFL action, or moving a guard to tackle and a backup guard into the lineup. It's not the best use of $11 million against the cap. I get it. But you said this already, and I'm going to say it again. Josh Simmons wasn't on the roster when they signed Jaylon Moore, and the Chiefs weren't picking 1-1. If you were picking number 1 overall and you knew you were taking Eric Fisher and you were going to have him start at left tackle the entire season, then fine. Don't spend that money. You don't need to. In this circumstance, though, last year was completely derailed by terrible tackle play. And now it's like, I can't believe they spent so much money on all these tackles. They just have 3 good ones now. That's a good thing. One of them might play guard. Yay!
I like this too. You didn't have to panic on draft night. That's your ROI. I like it. I love how we're very.
They're not trading back from 31. They're looking at moving up. Every other team in football would have gone into the first round of the draft and said, well, the Chiefs probably would have needed a tackle anyway. But now it's either the guy they benched last year or Wanye Morris playing left tackle. Good luck, I guess. And then imagine Sterling. This is not to drag you. You were, as you've already said, not elated with the Josh Simmons pick at the time because of what? What was the main issue there?
Because I'm a dumbass.
No, it's because of, that's true, but that's not the reason. The reason that you were a little bit questioning it was because of the injury. Can you imagine what that week would have been like if Brett Veach would have gone up there and said, yep, we miraculously landed Josh Simmons. A lot of you guys think his knee's probably meatloaf right now, but he's going to be our solution at left tackle the entire season. You go, wait a second. Are you sure about that, Brett? Is that an option? Are we okay? After good press conferences, I thought, oh man, if they get Josh Simmons by the bye week, that's going to be kick-ass. Nobody thought he was going to be out there for all of OTAs. What are we doing?
We thought at the bye week could be kick-ass, and right now we're seeing him kick-ass in training camp, literally.
In July!
Gosh. Chiefs football is bleeping tight, man.
Yeah, I haven't yelled in a while. See, it's 100 degrees, and I'm feisty.
I love this. You're ornery.
I'm going to the baseball game tonight, and it's going to be this shirt is going to be transparent. It's white right now. It's going to be transparent by the time I get home.
No undershirt. He's also wearing white shorts. Good luck, everyone.
I've got a white undershirt right now, but then if this gets drenched, it's coming off, and there's gonna be some problems. No pants.
Hate that. The Pooh Bear look.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
The Pooh Bear / old man in the gym who's like offers you a Clementine. Like why do old guys in gyms, why in the locker room do they have a shirt on and no pants? I'm always perplexed by this. Did they just grow up watching Winnie the Pooh? Is somehow it's comfy to make people uncomfortable? Why are you standing close to me with a shirt on and no pants?
We're both 30, right? Are you 31 now? Are you 30?
I'm 31.
31. I'm 30. We're both getting there, right? I feel like every year that gets closer, the closer I am to just going pantsless in the locker room. Who am I here to hide from, No.
Fine.
I'm not there yet, but
fine. I'll go full off. I'm not doing the shirt. It's the shirt that bugs me more than anything else.
And it's not, that's fair, because the first thing I'm putting on is I'm covering up. That's definitely the first move. Even at home, I'm just not rocking that way.
We're moving on. Rods and Trey has the best thing I've heard in a long time. Hide the belly, flex the bag sag. Wow. Strong.
I think these guys are just out here telling you with their actions what they're proud of and maybe what they're in the gym for, They're in the gym because they're not feeling great about the torso. No gym needed for, this may have inspired generations, literally made generations of human beings, or at least kicked it off,
Speaking of kicking, Harrison Butker. Harrison Butker has been the first one at training camp, like every single day. Matt Derrick doesn't stand a chance.
It's been hard to watch. It's been really hard to watch. Just real quick context. Matt Derrick every year, he tries to be the first person in the media tent, including beating the players to the field, and he always will track. He'll usually end up with an arch nemesis throughout training camp. I can't remember who it's been in years past. A couple of young linemen are kind of usually the guys who typically seem to win that. This year's been hard to watch, Stu. It's a blowout. Harrison Butker's been kicking them over left and right.
0 for 7. I believe it's 0 for 7.
Man.
So, Sean, I was ranting to my wife about a month ago about an old man in the gym locker room for that exact same thing. Just don't get it. See, We're not liars. Good job.
No,
All,
I never questioned that. I've seen it too. It's
all these ladies are like, what are they talking about? All these guys are like, nope, I know. I've been there.
No,
I've been
everybody
there.
at this point, it's something that you encountered. You got to talk about it. You know, you got to say what's going on here.
But Butker has been getting there, and I am enamored by his work ethic. I am shocked that a guy who is, I believe, the highest paid kicker in the NFL, or was, I think he still is.
I don't think there's been another huge kicker deal.
Not resting on his laurels. A guy who was pretty damn good last year. And he is the first one there. And part of his reasoning was he wants to treat it like a game. He gets there early to do his kickoffs both ways, right? With the new kickoff rules, which we'll get into here in a moment.
Highest paid kicker by a mile, by the way.
Still, okay.
Yeah.
And he wants to do this, so he gets there early to kick both ways.
Oop, Jake Elliott's close. Sorry, more guarantees for Butker. This wasn't necessary. I'm sorry for interrupting.
And then to treat it like a game, because in a game, once you do warm-ups and all that stuff, you sit can be for hours, for an hour or so. And that's what he does, is he gets there early so he can sit for a while and treat it like a game. And I am just enamored by that sort of mindset. And that is why I think he is the best kicker in the NFL right now, right? Tucker is done, gone. Brandon Aubrey, I think, maybe has a case, or Boswell. But I think who's been the consistent and the constant? It has been Harrison Butker. But it's not just that. It's not just because he's trying with the new kickoffs, which I think is a massive thing because you have to kick it inside a certain number. Lebo brought up today. It's like an 8-iron. You want to be dialed in within a couple yards. It's like a wedge. You got to get that feel for it. And again, going both ways, with the wind, against the wind, into the side winds, all that stuff. But he's trying something new with his kicking style. And this is where I'm really, really intrigued. He says his biggest focus right now is not collapsing to that left knee after contact. We've talked a lot about how, when did he start going to the left knee? Is this bad for your knee? Is this going to cause more issues and wear and tear? And it sounds like he agrees with everyone saying, yes, I probably shouldn't be doing that. While I'm comfortable doing that, it is causing unnecessary wear and tear on my legs, on my knees, on my joints. And so he's trying something called a skip through method. It's a skip through versus a collapsing sort of kicking style. And I just think a guy who's the highest paid kicker, the best in his profession, still trying to improve, first one there, and he is overhauling to try and create more longevity here in Kansas City. I guess I just go back to, I am very impressed with Butker's, I don't know the word.
Me neither, because
I'm impressed.
Mercifully, I'm not in your brain.
I'm impressed with Butker.
I did think that was interesting about the collapsing into the knee thing, and I don't know, maybe just because I'm a hater, but I thought, I heard that and I was like, didn't we spend a lot of time talking about that last year? And didn't Dave Tobe consistently no, I don't think it's a problem. And then this year Butker's like, this is the thing I'm changing. And both can be a little bit true, right? Tobe wasn't worried about it from an accuracy and distance standpoint. Again, I think Butker talking about it now has a little bit more of the onus of the longevity, like you said, and trying to do the thing that has a little less wear and tear on his body. And if you're a kicker who takes care of your body and has the consistent mechanics, he could do this for another decade pretty easily. I mean, easily is a loaded word there, but as far as physically being able to do it as an NFL kicker, he has the ability to do that other players simply don't have. So, I think it makes a lot of sense also when you listen to kickers. And frankly, I don't listen to a lot of kickers talk about their craft outside of Butker. There are a couple guys I'm thinking of, both pro and college, I've heard a little bit from recently, and even
listen to my weekly conversations with Nick Lowry every single week.
You do. Yeah, you do.
I talk kicker all the time, baby.
All the time. I think it makes total sense when kickers talk about doing, especially with the new kickoff rule, when they do talk about kicking like they talk about golf. Lebo's 8-iron. I think, didn't Butker say today, didn't he say he's thinking about it like a golfer?
Yeah.
I thought I caught that in there. You really are hitting your spots, and you're doing this repeated motion as a technician in a way that is just totally alien to the other two predominant phases of the sport. But long snappers, kickers, and punters, and the holding punter for the most part, right? Those guys are doing more or less the same exact motion, or the same few motions if you're trying to angle a punt or whatever. Do that over and over and over again. It makes sense that at this point, at this point in Butker's career, he's at that point of, how do I evolve one more time? How do I maybe extend my range or improve my consistency? How do I nail this part of the game that's already changing with the kickoff rule and the touchback zones and all of that, and or the more punishing touchbacks, I should say. So I do think it makes a lot of sense, and I imagine this isn't like to undercut Butker or anything. I imagine that's similar to what all the kickers around the league either are doing or should be doing right now. I think the benefit of having a guy like Butker is you have a guy who isn't trying to win a job, isn't trying to prove that he can make kicks at the NFL level. He's kind of graduated throughout his career, that now he's on this real sicko technician stuff that you usually see from pro golfers.
Yeah. Alan F., thank you. Yeah, the word I was thinking of was dedication. Work ethic, sure. But yeah, dedication was the actual word I was thinking of when I just decided to pause like a robot and just my batteries were.
You talk a lot, man. People don't understand you. You gotta, the idea of just like constantly being able to access one more word in a sentence in your like 8th hour of content that day, it just sometimes it catches you. It happens. Even Joe Tooney needs to load sometimes.
This is at least number 5. Jason was gone today, so it was just me.
Oh, really?
4
yeah,
hours
dude.
Yeah, a lot.
This is a hero dose from Sterling. I would have talked even more in the first segment if I would have known you were solo today.
Yeah, team on my back, baby. Rashard Smith spoke today. I didn't get a lot from him as far as to take away. He's a rookie. He's young. He's transitioning to running back. He said the hardest part about going from wide receiver to running back is being patient. Focusing on running lower and through the tackles, like going outside for him is going to be easier. Talked a lot about special teams as well. Obviously, a big candidate with the new kickoff rules to be one of those guys, or even a punt returner. Says he just wants the ball in his hands, thinks he can be very, very explosive. I would agree with you, Brashard. I think you can be very, very explosive. Kingsley spoke today, said he's learning a ton from Trey Smith, keeps following Trey Smith around, asking him questions. I really like Kingsley's personality. Honestly, him and Wanye Morris are both very easy guys to root for. They're fun. I remember even talking with him at the Super Bowl and just joking about, who can spell Sumati-Ia, who can spell his name, and Kingsley and Wanye having a lot of fun with it, and Creed and all those guys. So I don't know. Kingsley Sumati-Ia is an easy guy to root for, so I hope it does work out for him, even though I do agree, sunk cost, no matter where you're drafted, how much you're getting paid, I think it will be the best 5 out there week 1. Andy Reid, again, a slight little tidbit here that I caught. Juju's now the leader in the wide receiver room. I think that was asked, is who's the leader in the wide receiver room? Juju. He's the veteran. He's now the old guy. Those knees are older than he actually is, because you look at his age, you're like, that's not very old. But then you're like, his knees are 10 years older. So that's the difference there. But no Justin Watson. So Juju is now the leader in the wide receiver room.
And he's a good analogous kind of player for a guy like Jalen Royals, who's especially needing that. And I can't even remember now. I think Worthy and Hollywood both talked about Royals briefly in their pressers from the last few days. What are days in St. Joseph, Missouri? What are press conference days until the day you have to talk about them? But sometime either Monday or over the weekend, those guys talked about Royals too. The wide receiver room is kind of interesting because Hollywood's also a veteran, but this is another year in the system for Juju, and we've seen him have a lot of success and then leave and come back and then still know what's going on. Obviously, reacclimated through last year, so I think Juju as sort of the veteran brain on that wide receiver room. Obviously, Rashee Rice is very familiar with the offense now. Xavier Worthy is pretty familiar with the offense now. Hollywood was in it but not playing. I'm excited for this wide receiver group. I know that Hollywood and Worthy both got banged up today. It doesn't sound like either of those were any sort of serious. I think Worthy ended up coming back, but then Andy just still mentioned him in the injury portion of his presser today. Nothing serious there. You just hope those guys stay healthy, because I would really like to see them all on the field together.
Yeah, Worthy had a head injury. Sky Moore had a hamstring. Hollywood Brown had an ankle. Hollywood Brown rode up in the front seat of the car up the hill. So whenever we say they left practice, when it says up the hill, just for everyone who might not know the nuances of this, if it's front of the cart, that's good. That means, traditionally speaking, it's not serious. If
like passenger seat, they walked over and sat in the passenger seat of a golf cart, because it is a pretty steep hill you walk up and down to get on the field every day.
And so if they say front seat, typically not a big worry, something minor. If it's like they got carried up the back of the hill and it's like back of the cart, that's when you're like, okay,
you're immobilizing a leg. You got the leg stretched out. Maybe you're watching a knee, whatever. I would say in general, because I think our local media here does a good job with this, but the Justin Fields thing last week was nonsense. So I don't know who it was, but somebody's like, Justin Fields being carted off. And I was like, oh, well, okay, I guess their season's over, or maybe not. I don't know. And then he was back at practice a day or two later. Assume that carted off means significantly less in training camp than it means during the regular season. If you see something about how medical staff surrounded a player on the field, or a player hobbled over to the medical tent and then got treatment for 20 minutes and then got put on the back of the cart in an air cast, well, then yes, then it's definitely serious. But it's a good thing to mention. Lower your seriousness expectations, especially it's 1,000,000 degrees. If Hollywood Brown has a hammy, grab him funny when it's 400 degrees in St. Joe, I don't really want him running through it. I'd rather him get on the cart and go rehab that and come back tomorrow and see if he can get through it. So
go and eat a banana and drink some Gatorade and call it a day.
Yes. Find the ice bath, find the training staff, whatever it is, get some potassium in there. Absolutely. Like there's just, you just don't want anything to become worse. So they usually play it pretty cautious in training camp because it is a hard camp. And Andy Reid in many ways is a psycho, but in many more ways he's not. And it's not like I'm going to toughen these players up by having them pass out on the field and pull every muscle. No, Andy Reid's training camps are, I think, by and large, about pushing you to your limits and seeing how you perform in those moments. When your body stops you from the next thing, Andy Reid is still a legendary football coach who's been doing this for 1,000,000 years and isn't going to rub some dirt on it, Hollywood. We don't need you the first 4 weeks of the season anyway. If something pops, something pops. That's simply not how it works, which is good.
Yeah, very good. Jeffrey Bassa, ankle, Christian Fulton, knee, and then Brennan Stool with the hamstring. So nothing really shocking, but just wanted to give you guys the latest on the injury news. That was basically your training camp update for July 29th. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of Arrowhead Addict. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. If you want to follow us on the X, you can. Myself at Homestretch KC, JB Briscoe. Again, I think, the main takeaways, Josh Simmons looks damn good at left tackle. Left guard seems to be a fairly open battle, legitimate, with now Jaylon Moore throwing his hat into the ring. Harrison Butker going early, staying late, and really grinding, making sure he focuses on staying upright, and a skip through follow through versus a falling to one knee. And damn, is it hot outside. I think those are the main takeaways from St. Joe.
We just skipped through 45 minutes of beautiful training camp content like nobody's business. How about that?
Oh, and yeah, also, if you go to a locker room and you see an old guy, don't sit down. See an old guy with a shirt on,
I guess.
Yeah. I don't know why the Clementine. I just picture.
Has that ever happened to you? I don't.
No, I've never had the Clementine. I think it was a Family Guy episode of them handing a Clementine, and I think it's just been stuck in my dome.
It's a visceral image for sure.
I think it's a good addition to the picture, though.
Yeah,
of the poop area.
I agree. Better a Clementine than the plums.
This is when on radio you just throw it, but Richie really can't hit that takeaway. Again, everyone, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We'll be with you now all football season long. I think football season has started now. When training camp actually starts, football is here. We have fun things to talk about, and we will keep you updated all football season long. Check it out on arrowheadaddict.com as well as the Twitter page. Give us a review. I know we ask it, but please. Makes me happy. I think it's nice. 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts. A comment. We like those. Until next time, everyone, we are out.